Hello again, Gooners. Oh yeah, clapperboard. See, I can't be bothered to even do that. Well, if I yeah, I'm condemning myself for not being bothered to use a clapperboard. What about Arsene Wenger? Should we condemn him for not getting out the checkbook once in a while? I'll show you what one looks like, Arsene, just in case you've forgotten. They look sort of like that. There's no checks left in that. I wonder why. It's because this guy spends money, probably too much. In reality, definitely too much. Arsene, you don't spend enough. You've got money in the bank, so just get the checkbook out, buy the players we need. If you starting with Francis Coquelin, who's a very good player, potentially, against a team that have cost multi-millions to assemble in Chelsea, then we're asking for trouble. I'm not blaming Coquelin for the defeat, not at all. Persisting with Diaby, probably not the best idea of all time. I think even on a good day when he's not injured, he's not a top four club player. Certainly Premier League level, as is Coquelin. But are they good enough for Arsenal right now? I'm talking about right now. I'd say not for the big games. Diaby's proved me wrong a few times, but he's proved me right more often than he's proved me wrong. So until that changes, I'm going to continue having this point of view. So I'm very disappointed generally. Obviously, it was a bad first half at the office, if you like. Second half, spirited performance. Doesn't replace the lost points, though, does it? So for all that spirit, the big question is, why can't we play like that from the beginning? And even if we had, would we have won the game? Possibly. Might have drawn. And a draw probably wasn't good enough. And obviously a defeat in what is a 6-pointer against Chelsea is hugely disappointing. And I'm sick and tired of the manager not addressing the problems at the club. Now he's waiting for the end of the transfer window to make a move because he thinks he can get a bargain. Well, while we're waiting for a bargain, what about all the points that are being dropped? Somebody surely must realise that that's not the way to go. That's not the way to move up the table, just playing a waiting game in the transfer market. It's simple. If he'd assembled, spent all the money at his disposal, not on anybody, but there are players that have moved. Debuchy, for instance, I think is a good player. I'm not sure he's ripping up trees at Newcastle, but Newcastle have been making moves. Loic Remy obviously has been on our radar. He ended up at QPR, scores a goal on his debut. Sturridge was up for grabs. We let him go to Liverpool. I'm not suggesting we should have bought him, but these are the sort of players that were available and well within our price range. And how many goals has Sturridge got since he moved on? So Arsene Wenger can't turn around and say that there's not talent available. Instead, today, for instance, we had to rely on a half-fit Arshavin to rescue the points. Now, when the guy's ring rusty because he hasn't had games, and we wonder why that is, possibly because Arsene Wenger doesn't like him because he speaks his mind, then why use him in a situation when the clock's running down and it's going to be very difficult to come back, even though we've had a spirited second half? It just doesn't make any sense at all. So I'm sorry I'm whinging so much, but what else can I do in this current situation where we're on a poor run of form in the Premier League? How many defeats in a row is that? Is that 3? That's not too good, is it? It's certainly not top 4 form. We need to turn it around. We need to do it quickly, and Arsene Wenger may have left it too late this time. I'm not saying I want Wenger out, but I'm getting quite close to saying that. I've not said it at all, I don't think. But I've always said that he does need a good right-hand man, and Steve Bold might be that, but does he listen to him? We're not sure. Stuart Houston would have us believe that he doesn't. But one good bit of news, of course, only took us how many months to sign Theo Walcott? That's good news. Obviously, Theo scored today. I'm really pleased about that, genuinely. I can't smile, not after that defeat. I'm really pleased Theo signed, but I'm very disappointed it's taken so long. It makes you wonder what is going on at the club if it takes that long to sign a player who wants to stay. How can we get players who are not sure whether they want to join us or not? Well, I've been asked to do my Arsenalory, Jackanory with Arsenal tagged on in front. This is from Steve Stammer's book. I'm not going to read long, just long enough to keep some of you interested. And obviously at the moment it's always nice to go back to the past when well, this bit is very much how I'm feeling at the moment. The arrival of professionalism. Success brought other problems. What success? Most notably that of finding a bigger ground. Oh, doesn't that ring true? Manor Field had no proper facilities. either for the supporters or the fans. So in 1890, Royal Arsenal moved to the Invicta ground on the other side of Plumstead High Street. The new ground had a stand, terraces and changing rooms. On Easter Monday, 1891, more than 12,000 fans turned up to see Arsenal play the Scottish champions, Heart of Midlothian. But Arsenal's stay in the Invicta was very short-lived. Following the club's election to the Football League in 1893, the owner of the ground, George Weaver, sensing there was more money to be made, asked for an increase in rent. And Arsenal wouldn't play ball. See, we've always been tight round a pound note. Instead, the club and its supporters mustered enough money to repurchase their old ground, now renamed as the Manor Ground, and spent the summer of 1893 preparing for the start of the second division programme, and that is where they would stay for the next 2 decades. Their progress into Football League was an important chapter in the club's history. 2 years earlier, the committee were becoming increasingly alarmed at the ease with which their best players were being headhunted by professional clubs. Once again, same rings true all these years later. That's what it feels like anyway. At least we kept Theo. Royal Arsenal, of course, were still amateurs, give or take the regular expenses, and therefore players were not under any obligation to stay should one of the professional clubs in the fledgling league make them an offer. To compound this, defeats in a number of friendly games against professional clubs like Nottingham Forest and Hearts during 1890-91 showed the team was struggling to compete. And yeah, these defeats might prompt Arsene Wenger to make a move in the transfer market. I hold my breath, but not for too long. It was a problem that exercised fullback and committee member John Humble in particular. The London FA had a deep-seated suspicion of the northern professional game, and none of the clubs in and around London were prepared to challenge their stance against payments for players. Humble, this is John Humble, born in County Durham in 1862 and left without parents who died within months of each other, he could have just said an orphan, had decided to come south with his brother to look for work. While the empire was expanding in Asia and Africa to bring untold wealth to the select few, the likes of Jack Humble had to do what they could to make ends meet. So with no money for his train fare, he walked. Him and his brother found jobs as engine fitters in the munitions factory at Woolwich. That's where my great-grandfather worked. And Jack also became involved in the football club. His determination was again in evidence at the club's momentous annual general meeting, or AGM, in 1891, held at the Windsor Castle Music Hall. Humble suggested that the club turn professional, a plan that was accepted by a huge majority. The same meeting rejected a plan for the club to become a limited company, though. Humble said at the time, "The club has been carried on by working men, and it is my ambition to see it carried on by them." He reasoned that such a step would wrest control of the club from the people who had founded it, and whose spirit was, to him, all important. The South of England's first professional club was to be known as Woolwich Arsenal. The royal tag was thought to be somehow disrespectful for such an organisation. Predictably, Arsenal's decision to embrace professionalism was met with horror and alarm by the strictly amateur London FA. Quel surprise. They were immediately expelled from the London FA and banned from all competitions that came under its umbrella. This included the London Senior Cup, of which they were the holders. Effectively, this meant that Woolwich Arsenal had only one trophy to contest, that was the FA Cup. The rest of the fixture list would need to be made up of friendlies, and the FA Cup proved no early friend to the new professionals. They played their first tie in January 1892 and were hammered 5-1 by a club from the Midlands by the name of Small Heath, now better known as Birmingham City. Doesn't that ring a bell? Didn't we lose to them in another cup? 12 months on, and the club missed out again on much needed proceeds from the oldest cup competition in the world by losing 6-0 to Sunderland. Well, at least in the FA Cup we can say, that's the end of that chapter, at least we can say in the FA Cup we've managed to progress. We've got the mighty Brighton next, and don't get me wrong, it's not going to be an easy game at all. I've seen Brighton this season playing against Millwall, and Brighton played Millwall off the park, and it's not because Millwall played particularly badly. Brighton are sharp and they play a passing game. I think they'll give us problems. We should be able to make it through, but you never know with this Arsenal team. Who knows? I'm not saying that the whole team is a waste of space, far from it. It's just the squads at the moment, we just don't have enough players. Arsene Wenger refusing to buy, preferring to loan players out and just play this waiting game, this ridiculous, utter ridiculous waiting game. So, as you can tell, I'm not very happy today. I tried to put on a brave face, it didn't work. I might as well cover myself in sellotape. That's the way I feel right now. and even that wouldn't cover my brown. So until the next time, I'm going to end this time with a low note. Until the next time, up the Gooners.